No, I didn't feeling well, so I just wanted, yeah, I feel better now. I just wanted to be sure. So.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Tom. All my are silent this. I have all my leather. Sandals, but only for tires, his response was, so that's good. I have my scarlet letter on my car, Rita.
Your scarlet letter on
My tires are.
Oh, no, I had to get new tires and I got them this week and then I got my.
I knew it,
today.
I'll accept the scarlet letter.
Yeah. They said to me when I got my car serviced, they said, this is just gonna pass, but you're gonna need new tires for the winter. And I said, I already scheduled my tires.
Yeah.
I got a car service, I got the tires, I got the inspection today.
Don't they? Showtime.
Showtime.
Yeah, I'll get that.
Sure.
Right. It should have more fanfare. I think,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Well, we can get the fan from upstairs and then.
Number one fan.
I will call the Shutesbury Selectboard meeting to order for July 17th, 2025. All right. So, let's review the agenda. First, we have approval from minutes for July 1st meeting. We're going to review and sign the Vadar Systems Financial Management Software contract renewal. Review and sign FY 25 year-end transfers. We're going to talk about acting chief and police department update. Then the Spear Library Reuse Committee, town administrator goals, and then we'll enter a joint meeting with the personnel board about 5:30, where we'll discuss among a few things, election of the chair for the personnel board, election of a secretary, discussion of tasks of the committee, discussion of negotiation, contract negotiation process and personnel board role, discussion of draft personnel policies, and discussion of employee evaluation process. And then adjourn both of those things. We'll have to remember to have them call themselves to order too. Okay. All right, so the first one is public comment. Is there anyone in the room here or online that has a public comment? Mary Lou, go ahead. Mary Lou? Hold on.
Okay, am I in?
Yeah, you are. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Mary Lou Conca, for the records. And I have a general question I'm hoping the select board can answer. I'm curious to learn the status of the post investigation that I believe is in your hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Lou.
Yep.
It's not, and we've said this before, we don't traditionally, reply during our public comment, but we do see that you had sent an email, so,
Okay,
will go.
so, yes, sorry, Melissa, I don't mean to overspeak you. It's kind of difficult when I'm not in front of you, but will the email be answered? Then I hear about the open meeting law through emails. So then if a town resident can't get their questions answered like this in a town public meeting, and then I send the emails and I get them back and they say the open meeting law doesn't let us talk about this stuff, where do the answers come from?
That response you get back in the automatic response, just to let you know the select board's received the email.
Right.
Right, so, you brought something to us that we don't necessarily have an answer to this evening, so we will have to.
Oh, good.
I'll send it to- Yeah, the town administrator works with us to answer emails and such, so that'll be our process.
Good, good. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, anyone else with a public? No? Okay. Okay, well, let's move on to approve the minutes of July 1st, 2025. Do I hear a motion to approve?
I will make a motion to approve the minutes of July 1st, 2025.
I have a very, very small correction.
Of course you do.
Of course I do.
Do I hear a
I-
second here?
Okay, second.
Okay, now we can
Now I
discuss
can
it.
do that? Okay. I think it's item number 6.
Mhm.
About halfway down the page is the word put forth candidates, and I think it's FORTH, not FOURTH. You put things forth, you don't, you know. what I mean?
FORTH. FORTH,
Right.
yes.
Yeah, is that what I
Yeah.
said? Yeah. That's, as I
Oh,
said,
thank you for
super,
fixing that.
super minor.
Well, that's okay. We want to make.
My
sure-
mother's the English teacher
Yeah.
coming through.
All right, so do I hear, so
Made
all
and
in,
seconded.
okay, all in favor of approving the minutes as amended?
Farrell, I.
Stalker eye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Brennan. The next item is to review and sign the Vadar Systems Financial Management Software Contract Renewal. And I believe this is the one that Ellen uses?
Yes, this is the accounting software.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
It
right.
only needs one signature.
Okay, well, I can't sign it for that pen. That's purple. Okay, so, do we want any more backup? This is the contract renewal for Shutesbury, for the next, this fiscal year, right? Okay.
And you sent us everything. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right, so do I hear a motion to approve and sign the contract renewal for Vadar Systems Financial Management Software?
So moved.
Second,
All those in favor?
Farrell, I.
Stalker eye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye. Rita, this one has your name on it. Do
Oh.
you feel so
sign it.
inclined to sign?
Oh, sure.
Like,
I know, I saw that on the thing I sent.
Yeah, I saw that.
like the good old
Okay.
days.
Like the-
Sure. Today is the 17th, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. So now is the review and sign of the FY 25 year-end transfers. Haley.
Here
which
they
ones
are.
do we have? Okay.
So I have some of the overdrawn accounts, assessor's clerk, that was because Leslie's been working more hours and David has not.
So were
Treasurer,
the hours shifted? Because I looked at that and I was wondering, I can't remember, did the money come out of like David's salary?
Yes.
To pay for?
Yep. There is an overdrawn account for the treasurer certification, and so Gail has identified the assistant treasurer line as the remedy for that. We overdrew buildings and heating coming out of the administrative assessor line, because again, we have excess funds and you can't roll over the payroll. Police equipment, that's coming now out of equipment maintenance. There's a police longevity overdraw, and that's gonna come out of the chief holiday pay. There was an emergency management phone notification charge that will come out of emergency management. Dog officer expense will come out of the dog officer line, and then Amherst Pelham Regional will come out of the council of government line. And so Gail has all the accounts on this page, and she does also have a explanation page if you want to see it.
And the total, just the total of that was $11,070.22.
And all of the legal overruns.
That will
were-
be coming in, there will be one other line item transfer, which will have the legal on it.
Okay.
I think legal and snow and ice.
And does that come before at our next meeting or? Okay. So does it have to come before July 31st?
I think if I get it to her by then,
Yeah.
on the Tuesday, it'll be fine.
Okay.
Her and I had a conversation about it today, and essentially the safe position is, we want it by this time, but we also don't want to have to make corrections.
Right,
So get it to us as it needs to be
okay,
is better.
okay, all right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so do I hear a motion to sign the year-end fiscal FY 2025 transfer?
So moved.
Second,
Okay, any further discussion or questions?
The only thing is, it seems like a fairly low number, which is
nice.
indicative of how the
Yes.
finance committee's got their act
Yeah,
together, which is
yeah,
great. So
yeah.
thank you for
Waiting for legal.
For
work.
that. Yeah, right. Well, that's probably true. No, but
That's our
seriously,
problem.
but the rest,
No,
the
it
rest of
has,
it's pretty
yes.
low.
No, it
Yeah.
was good. Yeah.
And
Tradition,
it was not an easy year last year.
No,
either,
and
It's also
so-
departments sort of sticking within their budgets.
yeah,
too.
no, it's all,
That's it.
it's all
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Good effort on everybody. So all those in favor,
Carol, I.
Start right.
make peace O'Neill, aye. Oh, this one gets all three of us. Yeah. And the next item, while you guys are signing that, is acting chief and a police department update. So, this is something we've encountered before, when we had our other chief was, officer in charge. There was, and Devin, you can fill me in a little bit better on exactly what, is needed as an acting chief. But there is a, need to have an acting chief to have access to certain items and procedures that an officer in charge is precluded from. And so we're in that situation again, like we were before. And did you want to enlighten on some of those other details with, that you would need that for, just for the public?
To have an acting chief, is extremely useful because, as an officer in charge, you're not really able to go to, chiefs meetings. There's a lot of, subjects covered at chiefs meetings that are kind of crucial to stay up to date on, whether it's, new post regulations or different stuff happening in the region. And to kind of have that support from surrounding chiefs. Additionally, as far as, staffing and stuff, that's concerned, you can't really hire without a police chief. There are legal obligations to have a chief for a town. So there is a need for at least, a chief for.
Yeah, I think the big thing too is also it's, that scope of responsibility. So now you have a single dedicated point of contact. There's a clear chain of command and, again, by statute, there are certain things that he cannot do now that we need to be able to do. So that'll be, in the interim process, I think it's really important to have an acting chief.
So we need to have a conversation about sort of what the timeline
Mhm.
then is for,
That's
you
the
know,
next part of the discussion.
yeah,
Yeah, they're kind of in tandem.
okay, all right, good, okay, where we go from here.
Are we comfortable with appointing Sergeant Pelletier as our acting chief Pelletier while we, go through our next steps? What select board needs to.
Man,
Yes,
Okay, do I hear a motion?
I'll move that we, appoint, Devin Pelletier as our acting police chief.
second,
All those in favor?
Farrell, I.
start right.
Make peace O'Neill, aye. We'll need a letter for us to sign so that you have that finishing where you need to show that. Do you want to start off on the next?
Yeah, so we have, we have options in the town. But in trying to be respectful of the police study group and all the work that was put into that, and that was really not that long ago. I would, say that I think it would be reasonable to do a police chief search committee. And, put out, that we're looking for a new chief and, invite people to apply for the position. We do have the the avenue of going with lever, but again, I think the people in this community made their voices known. And we should be respectful of that. But I would defer to the meeting of the minds here, but that would certainly be the avenue that I would recommend.
And, I think you were prepared to give us a department update as well. Right,
Yeah,
do we want to hear that and then finish the discussion with the search committee, or do we want to go the other way? Which would we prefer?
Yeah, I mean,
Kind of all in.
I've given it some thought and sort of looked through the material and had a discussion with Devin and talked to Haley too, and kind of, and I did go back through some of the police study materials. And I agree that I think at this juncture, going ahead with our own police chief makes sense. I think I thought, gee, maybe it makes sense for us to go sort of the lever route, but when I realized that there's an imbalance there, that the Wendell's a much smaller community, and I think if we were gonna proceed with another community, I would wanna see it more on a shared basis, on a shared chief basis, as opposed to us contracting with another town. I mean, we have all this equipment, we have personnel in place, we have the kind of the infrastructure, and I don't know that we would save much money. I doubt that we would save any money, if we were to contract, and I think we would lose some control. So I think keeping it in place, and then at such time as, something happens in one of the other communities where, we might look at if a joint chief made sense. I mean, I think regionalization of services is a good thing. But in this particular instance, at this time where we are, I think going ahead with hiring our own police chief makes sense. Given all of those things that, looking at everything.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
You could always at some point reach out, but I think it's a lot harder to get out of something once you are in it, rather than try for our own standalone.
And I also think too, that Wendell has a different, and they have had for many years, a different type of policing policy than Shutesbury might take on.
Right.
So it's hard to compare the two.
Yeah.
Right, so, but I feel like we should honor the police study group and what our community said they wanted, and I agree with you too. Read up on this way. All right, so do I hear a motion to?
So proceed with,
Draft the charge.
is the job description up to date? Is
I
everything?
think the last
Concurrent,
time it was
yeah.
updated was maybe 2018.
We
I'll
should
double check.
glance- We should glance at that. just to
Yeah,
make sure
maybe we could
post
just mention it to
updates in
the
there.
personnel committee tonight.
Yeah.
I would just as we're doing, every time we're doing this, I think we should be looking at job descriptions, don't you think?
Yeah,
Yeah,
especially
yeah,
ones that changes with regulations, so we so
Right.
quickly with that, like
Right.
fire and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to make sure it has any updated statutory requirements or whatever in there.
We need a police,
And then I think in terms of the, like the search committee and all that stuff, I think we should. Let's talk to the personnel committee about how we're gonna proceed.
all right, so do I hear a motion to, engage in a search committee for police?
So moved.
Second,
All those in favor?
Carol, aye.
Stalker,
Make peace on the line, sorry, I was writing stuff down.
So we need to have the updated, job description first before you
Yeah.
can post it.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, oh yeah,
Okay,
yeah, we're not that step yet.
okay.
Yeah, then we should probably look at that too, for any post stuff that
Yeah.
we may not be thinking of.
Yeah, if you can give comments, that would be great.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, so we also had a police department update as well. Did you want to give us a quick update on? On the department?
Operationally, we're moving ahead pretty strong. We have a good schedule, laid out where we have some pretty good coverage. There's obviously staffing concerns for things like time off and those sort of things. But as far as day to day, we are staffed adequately at the moment. All of fiscal year 25 training was completed, and submitted, so we're all good on that end. Both cruisers got required service before the end of fiscal year 25 to make sure that they were serviced. I completed the onboarding for the new body cameras yesterday. I'm looking, and I have a phone call following up with them Monday. There's still some setting up aspects where I have to fully get it implemented. Target deployment dates July 3rd. The goal of that is to get that implemented as quick as possible because there is software fees associated with it. So we want to make sure that that gets implemented and doesn't go by the wayside. So we're not paying fees. Our new truck is due in by the end of the month or mid-August. They are actively working on it right now. We have been waiting for it for
I know, it's
a couple years.
I know, it's crazy.
But I submitted the necessary paperwork for registration and stuff, and then after that, it's pretty quick. I'm working on the trade-in for the other vehicle here, so that stuff's already underway as well. I collaborated with the web committee because a lot of our police page was either links weren't working or it was outdated information, for different things like licensing and that sort of thing. So we were able to kind of update it and bring it up to what it needed to be. I am still investigating solutions for speed board sign on Pelham Hill Road. It was taken down. I was able to plug into it, but I'm not getting a reading back from it yet. So I'm still working on that. Dave's been helping me with that, the Iowa superintendent, so that's been, that's still actively being worked on. I'm hoping that it's a computer diagnostic issue, because to send it out would be ultimately very expensive.
Are any of those under warranty still or not? 'Cause
So I did check on that. They were under warranty for 6 months. And we've surpassed that.
Yeah.
So we'd be looking at a $60 diagnostic fee, and we'd have to ship them across the United States, and they weigh about 50 to 100 pounds, somewhere in there. So it wouldn't be a cheap shipping bill. So I'm really hoping, and as far as people, I've done some calls, folks in the area, as far as people that specialize in fixing speed boards, there are none that I've been able to find so far. So that is one thing I really want to work on. We do have a mobile speed board. Well, I've been collaborating with Dave to see if the trouble with that one is it lasts for about 3 days with a battery. So that's a great option only because it's you can deploy it to different locations, but we're looking at potentially a solar panel with an inverter for that one so that it can be left in places long enough before, because as of right now, every 3 days you have to pick it up, bring it back, charge it for a day, and that sort of thing. So I'm looking into solutions for that, and overall, as a way to address speed concerns more than just traffic stops, and obviously that's extremely important, but to address them kind of from every angle we can. And
Can I ask you about the stop sign at the bottom of Prescott Road?
yes, you absolutely can.
Why doesn't anybody do it? Somebody
It's
else?
on the ground, yeah.
So our poor highway department, they, that stop sign has been, I believe we're up to 4 times in a matter of 3 months.
Has been
Yeah.
hit.
That's been hit, and now every time the temporary stop sign goes there, it never gets hit. But as soon as they put up the permanent one,
Right.
it just goes down within a few days, honestly, and I don't know. I don't know.
Put
the
up a camera to see who's hitting it. And then
Yeah.
charging them.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's gotta be some part in it somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know, like, if there's a bolder solution to it, maybe like, flashing lights, something, I don't know, but the thing is like, apparently that stop sign is a target for some reason.
Hmm.
And,
What about, in some of the, I don't know if it's in Amherst or where I've seen this, but sometimes where it's foggy, there's a strip of fluorescent something in
Oh,
the,
yeah.
in the,
on the pole
in the,
itself,
in the flex iron that holds it up.
yeah, I could,
I put that.
address that. Yeah, I could address that with Dave. I know that I think with the way that they install them, they have to make a break point, right above,
So that it,
so that if you hit it, it doesn't, the sign
It
goes
breaks,
down.
yeah,
Uh, And with that, they might be running out of the proper size piping, because there's regulations on that, because it's gotten hit 4 times. They've had to put 4 new posts up, so, that, I will talk to Dave, and that might be a good solution.
I mean, it's a particularly bad place, given the accidents that we've had, to
Mhm.
not have that stop sign up there, and
Mhm.
I would think like a liability for the, I mean,
It's,
yeah,
it's a
maybe have it
very
when it
bad-
blinks, just to get some,
It's a bad place, trucks coming down that hill,
Yeah.
their
They get-
brakes, like big trucks, their brakes aren't always, there's no real signs warning that we
Yeah.
have that steep grade there. So there's a few issues with that area, but, that's probably, I would venture to say that that is our, most frequented accident site in the town.
Could there be more signage going down the hill?
Yeah,
Or
like-
I believe.
Test your brakes.
Test your brakes, or
right.
I
jump
believe-
out now or something.
Yeah. I
Fail.
believe that would be good, and, a lot of times, like trucks, expect kind of these signages to start kind of far away, so perhaps like even as far
At the
back
top
as
of the
Pratt Corner.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
To get them to know that it's a steep grade, we've noticed an increase of, tractor trailers. And
Oh, yeah.
stuff
Right,
coming through the
yeah.
center of
does
town.
that, yeah.
So, which could be a GPS thing.
Yeah.
yeah. it
But
does.
there certainly has been an increase in tractor trailer traffic. So,
I mean, that's a bigger question, but I've often wondered, like in terms of the road committee, having a road committee, whatever. One thing was speed bumps coming up the hill so that trucks wouldn't go up there. Because if they had to stop and go over a speed bump, they wouldn't do it.
What about the washboard thing in the road, like?
Yeah.
That's another idea. Or, but the other question is whether or not, and I don't mean to get into this now, but whether or not you can ban trucks except for local deliveries. I'm not talking about Clark's or something, they can come up here because they're local, but
Like a suggested truck.
can
route?
you ban, sometimes you see signs where
No
they ban
commercial.
trucks
No
for
commercial
local
vehicles.
delivery, except for
Right.
local deliveries. So someone's got a couch coming from whatever, and it's gonna come in a big truck, well, that's cool, but if they can't use this road to just cut through.
That's correct.
I don't know what the legality of that is, but
Yeah, we should explore it.
yeah,
It's
it's
a
something
big
we have
problem.
to explore.
And then contact Google. Oh, sorry,
It's 5:30.
okay.
Yeah.
Anything else important on the list we can?
Let's put this on a future, because
Roads specifically?
yeah,
Yeah.
because we talked about it having to do with the highway department too.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, let's add trucks, that's a great idea, or traffic and roads committee, yeah. Great idea. Thank you, Kevin. All right, Tom, you had a quick question. we have to-
Take a second, I can follow it up with an email, but, we just mentioned the website of the police department. And, two things, every community I've lived in always had like a police blog section on the police communications with town, that would be really wonderful. And the other thing I'm noticing is, there's a 2015 and then there's a 2004 to 2005 section on the website, but there's nothing else.
Yeah.
And so I think there might be missing stuff post 2015. We only have 10 or 20-year road information in the site, so I just wanted to alert somebody to that. It might be.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Or was that intentional?
I wouldn't, we
What is
wouldn't.
it? Well, the police box is one thing, but then for the current website, just if you scroll down, it just suddenly lists the 2015 survey. And then it lists 4 documents from 2004 to 2005. But it makes no mention of why or whether there might be anything since 2015 that would belong there.
We
So
can look
I think
at
it's
it,
just missing
yeah.
things.
Personnel boards.
Okay.
Yeah,
Can
I do this thing quickly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can delay that. So, thank you. Tom.
Thanks. So, did you guys, print out a copy of the, draft charge? Okay.
Yeah,
So
thank
we talked at the last meeting about putting together a committee to take a look at the reuse of the MN Spear Library building. And, so I drafted this, it's a draft charge for a committee, and I just put it in the folder. I'm sorry, I didn't email you guys individually, so I hope you saw it. So basically, the committee composition would be, and this is all up for discussion, that we'd have a 7-member committee appointed by the select board, with preference given to citizens with real estate, architecture, structural engineering, municipal services, or the adaptive reuse of historical buildings. And make sure we have representation from the buildings and finance and historical commission. The charge and purpose, it's to consider analysis of potential reuses for the building. This should include future uses by the municipality, including municipal offices and other potential uses by boards, committees, and town organizations. And that the committee would put forth a recommendation to the select board for its consideration. I assume that there might be a town meeting vote in here somewhere. I don't know.
There may have to be.
The building is owned by the town. Whatever happens to this building is going to involve money.
Yeah.
So I think by virtue of that town meeting will probably be involved. So the tasks to be completed include an assessment of what the needs are out there. So that would have the committee talking to different boards and municipal officials, and getting department heads, everybody, I'm hoping that as part of this process that we could also take a look at this building and the use, the space use in here, because I think it relates to, now that we're thinking about having approximately 700 square feet over there, how does that impact? And we're improving this room, we hope. So that would be sort of a larger, a little bit of a bigger piece of this. Get some public input from the community, so have some public participation, and then put together some numbers. So the buildings committee has done a lot of work, so they have a lot of information, and in the course of doing the doing the library, the application for the new library, there's a lot of history. There's, been a lot of information put together about that building. So we have a lot about the current condition. When they looked at that property to potentially do another library there was a lot of discussion about septic system and well and all of that stuff. So we know a lot. So we can feed a lot of information into this committee. I was very ambitious and said, we'd like a report by December 1st. I'm thinking, maybe January 1st, but I think if we can think about town meeting, as our kind of point of, having a report together so that if we need some funding, whether it's for additional due diligence or it's for actual, work that's gonna be done, then it would be really good to have that worked into the budget, and we'll be doing budgets in January. So we can change it to January 1st.
Maybe second, maybe not a holiday.
Okay. Let's change that. All right. Okay. I mean, we can change it to 15th, but let's change it to how about January 2nd. So to January 2nd, 2026, and Haley, when we spoke, suggested that we use our new format for asking people who are interested in serving on the committee to just submit something. We'll have a form. And so I think if we put this, if we finalize this tonight, then we can make an announcement that we're getting the committee together and have the form available for anybody that's interested, and make sure that we get the buildings. I said finance, I don't know that has to be finance, but I think the historical commission makes sense. So if those three, then we would have four other slots. Is that sufficient? And probably you serve ex officio as the.
I can do that.
And I'm sorry, I handed the copy back. You put on there to check with department needs, right? Like,
Yes.
okay.
Yes. So is
So
everybody good with that?
I'm good with
sounds
that.
good.
So do I hear a
Okay.
motion, Eric?
You do.
What would the motion be?
Do I hear a motion to accept the MM Spear Library Building Reuse Committee? I'm at changing the charge.
So moved.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Carol,
Stock right.
Make peace of Miller.
so, then if we get this finalized and get it out, today's what?
There's
Yeah,
Thursday.
Get it out
Definitely get it out Monday.
Monday.
Good.
Okay,
Okay.
and then with the form. and telling
I'll make
everybody.
it PDF fillable, so it's easy.
Okay, great. Okay, good.
Thank you, that's great.
We should probably just like.
We're gonna put the town administrator goals after this meeting,
Yeah,
okay, after this part of the meeting. Okay.
yeah, thanks, Devin.
As much as you'd like.
Sorry to hold you longer than you were expecting. Okay, so now we're entering into the meeting with the personnel board. We're already in session. We don't have a chair of the personnel board at the moment, so.
Do they have a forum?
Yes, they.
Oh, you do, right.
Oh, okay. Veronica, Kathy, April.
I'm not sure where Ann Brigham is. I just emailed her.
Won't be here. She has something come up.
She did.
Yeah. I'll forward you the email.
Oh, it's too bad. Thanks.
So. I guess. Would one of you, since we have no chair in the personnel board, like to call the personnel board to order?
I will.
Okay.
Why not? I wanted to start by introducing Veronica Richter, who is our newest member. And maybe you could say a little bit about yourself and we could introduce ourselves to you as well. This is your very first meeting.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I was quite involved with town government many years ago when the boys were little. I was actually town clerk for a while back in the day when you were paid $300 a year and you did it out of your living room except for 2 hours a week. So that was a while ago. And then I was on the Space Needs Committee when when the school was built. And I went to that first meeting when Stuart was 7 days old, I think, and then he was one of the first classes in it as a first grader, so. And then I was on the Open Space Committee for quite a number of years with Janice and that group. So I have been involved with town government, but then I worked full-time all of this time, and then I retired thinking I could get back into it, and then I started Grammy duties. So, but now my two that are in town are both in school full-time, so not so much Grammy time anymore. So, but I was a teacher for 36 years in 34 of them in East Long Meadow. So that's me.
Welcome.
I'm April's neighbor down the road.
That's right. And we have, sometimes we get to cross in the road and catch up. And I watched the house go up next door to yours and felt how lucky you are to have your grandchildren right next door.
Yeah.
And yes, we've known each other for many, many years. So who's next?
I'll go next. So Melissa, you know me, Veronica, for many years. Melissa, and I'm the select board liaison or select board representative on the personnel board.
Mhm.
And I'm Kathy Salvador. I was on the finance committee and was that representative to the personnel board last year. Decided pretty early on that the finance committee, although they're a wonderful group of people, wasn't a good fit for me personally, but I did want to stay on with the personnel board. And so here I am. I'll continue to work with these ladies and for the next 3 years, and hopefully get to know you a little bit better as we go on through this term. So welcome.
That's great, Kathy. Thank you. Thanks, Veronica.
And I guess Ann Brigham had planned on being here. I guess the last I knew, but I think something came up, so she won't be here. She's another one of your neighbors on Montague Road. So I'd say we've got 3/5 of the personnel board is on Montague Road. For what that's worth.
That's not really too much of a change because Peg was off of Montague
That's
Road.
right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are empowered here. Yes. So we need to elect a chair, and I can't believe these words are coming out of my mouth. But I am certainly willing to give it a try this year as chair. If other people, if anybody wants to nominate me, I am certainly willing to do this.
That's great, because that's what I was going to do. So I nominate April Stein to be chair of the personnel committee.
I second that.
So one at a time, you have to roll call vote.
I'll let you guys first.
Stein, aye.
Salvador, aye.
Richter, I.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye. Yes.
Thanks,
he did.
April.
You're welcome anytime. This is a wonderful committee to work with. I really have enjoyed it over the years for sure. So the next thing we need to do, because I know Peg was taking the notes, but I think we should have somebody else be the minute taker, AKA secretary, but the minute taker for the committee. And is anybody interested in nominating Ann? No, that's not fair.
I was going to propose that because you snooze, you lose.
True.
I don't know what her schedule looks like.
I don't.
It is much easier these days because it is recorded, so you don't have to do it live in action. So it is easier to do.
And you have the AI help.
And you have AI.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I am too busy to do minutes. We'll say that. We could nominate Ann. She does have an English degree.
And she knows about Oxford Commons.
Yes.
Yes.
And she isn't here.
So how would you say, Kathy, if I nominated you to be the keeper of the minutes?
I would be happy to do it. I have a little bit of travel coming up, but I can do it for all of the meetings that I'm available for.
It can be a shared thing, right, April? Like, it can be shared if someone's got it.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm
Okay.
not a huge committee.
Sure. Salvador, I.
I'll make a motion that we appoint Kathy Salvador as the the secretary of the personnel board for minutes and such.
And I'll second that. So roll
Now
call
Salvador,
vote.
I.
Richter,
Yes.
I.
Stein, aye.
Thank you, Sonia.
And I want to apologize to the select board that we're not in person with you. I mean, I guess imagine we meet virtually, and I think it would be nice to meet in person, but that's not what we did. So we are here on Zoom. And as I looked through the agenda that I had proposed, I realized it's all really pertinent information in the personnel handbook. All of this is part of the handbook. The the contract negotiations, the draft of the personnel policies, that's what that is, and discussion of employee evaluations. And I think one of our most important tasks this year is to get this up and running and approved by the select board. I think another task that's been left undone, and a large part of that is on me, is the job classification that we're almost completed that. I think that needs to be completed this year. And as town meeting approaches, looking at, the market value of our employees and making sure that employees are being paid as, in fair market valuation. So so I guess I wanted to start with the personnel handbook that Haley drafted, this amazing document. I'm curious what your sources were, because it's quite comprehensive. I'm not sure if other people have had a chance to read it all.
Yeah, I pulled from a lot of different towns. I pretty much just picked several at random. I tried to get big towns, medium size, and cities just to get kind of a variation of what they all did. And then, truth be told, I fed all that into a machine and I asked it different questions. And I said, well, if we have the policy that says this, what could be an outcome? What might be a more effective way of communicating the policy? So I tooled around with it for a while. And I always like to make things aesthetically pleasing too. So I tried to format it so that it was easy to read, easy to find what you wanted. Now, that being said, I did base it primarily off of what I think needed to be included. Things like a social media policy, a little bit more detail around certain like hiring practices. And so what had to happen, and then what was kind of already being done, like the contract negotiations. But I honestly would still make some changes to some of the things that I put in there, which I'd be happy to discuss more now since we're all together.
Yeah. And I just had some questions going through the pages on certain topics, and I don't know if anybody on our board, actually we're the personnel board, not committee. And I'm wondering, it's a nuance, and what makes it a board and not a committee, but we are the personnel board, not the personnel committee.
I wondered the same thing, April. I'm glad you asked that.
I don't know, Haley, do you have any idea what is the difference between a committee and a board?
Sure. I didn't study before the exam. But I guess to me, if I had to come up with something off the top of my head, I would say like a committee, like we're doing a committee to do library reuse, right? So that's like a specific concrete thing. But a board in this sense to me is more like a board of directors. So there's a little bit more discussion around things. It's more of like a long-standing practice because we're always gonna have personnel that need to be managed. So I think the expectations are a little bit different. But like I said, I didn't study, so.
No, it's just because there's a finance committee and the select board, planning board, you know, it's just food for thought.
They seemingly are used interchangeably, but I just Googled, this may not fit, but I just Googled it, and it said that, committees report back to a board and that provide recommendations for action overall, and then boards have more authority and responsibility for organization as a whole, while committees focus on specific areas.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Okay. It makes
Although
sense.
definition doesn't really. That's where you get committee, finance committee is a little gray there.
Yeah.
Because
Sounds
they
better.
set the budget and not right, so.
But the finance committee, it all goes to the select board. You know, it's the conduit, the fiscal
Yeah.
conduit.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a riddle in there somewhere.
Well, we will have this at the end of the fiscal year, definitely, the answer to the riddle.
I think we can say that all boards are committees, but not all committees are boards.
Very good.
I think that's right.
And you don't want to be bored when you're on a committee.
Right.
Penny Kim has a question, has her hand raised anyway.
I was just going to say that position, and I was chair of the personnel board for a number of years, way back when salary charts were first introduced, so established by law and a good sturdy tradition. I inherited it from Peg Randall. So I think the other explanation that it works unto itself, with no reports back to the town meeting, not necessarily to the select board.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Penny. Yeah. And I think at some point, you know, many years ago, I think I was on the committee with you, Kenny, when we did this, we drafted the personnel bylaws. And to my knowledge, that has not been reevaluated since. And I think my daughter was in diapers. She's in her 30s. So.
So maybe, April, we should add that to the list of tasks, is to look at the bylaw
Yeah.
and make sure applicable still,
Absolutely.
and any updates that needed. I mean, it's applicable, but if there's any updates.
Absolutely, I agree. So Haley, you know, this is the document you pulled together with, and it sounds, you know, you've got a lot of references. It came from a lot of different places you compiled, and it's quite complex. I'm curious what your thoughts are now as you've reread it, and what are some of your comments on your work?
May I just see this? I should have printed it.
That's right.
I'm trying to save a tree. So I think there are some things that I think upon reflection, we might need to alter because we're a small town. So so truth be told, I also really like human resources and I've taken several courses on it. So I kind of went like, yes, like this, if I had to pick one master personnel book, this is probably something that I would create. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's practical for a small town. You know, we have to consider the fact that the town administrator is the HR department. You know, so it's not like in another community where there might be one or two people who are running the show. So there are some time constraints that we should be mindful of when we develop policies. You know, I think by and large though, I think it's really important to set like expectations for people, and the personnel book is the first stop for that. You know, so again, it's like, you know, what is our code of conduct? You know, are we making sure that we say that we're value equal treatment for all? You know, it's our way of communicating to employees before they have their first day at work. And so I think it's really important that we want to set good expectations so that when people come to work, they don't feel like they don't know what they're supposed to be doing, or they don't know what the culture might be when they're here.
Mhm.
So, yeah, and then I just took, an opportunity. There are a lot of new changes in HR law. So I tried to put those in there, things like the Small Necessities Leave Act. A lot of people don't know that in Massachusetts, if you have a child and you need to go take time off from work to bring them to a baseball game, you're allowed to do that. So making sure that we're current on that. I put a lot of thought into employee conduct and disciplinary action, because I think those could be stumbling blocks for a lot of folks. Making sure that we talk about information technology resources. We have, everyone's got a computer. Are they using it professionally? Are they, on social media? How do we make sure that we can put some parameters in how they use their department's social media accounts? Different harassment policies. And then I threw in some stuff like vehicle use, we might want to consider at some point adopting something on that. You might want to look at, a lot of places have an educational assistance program. That might be a benefit that we could offer, because as a small town, we can't necessarily offer a higher salary. So with flexible time off or things like that, is that a way to make us more attractive to potential employees? And then also I put in a complaint resolution process. So if somebody has an issue with an employee, there's a way to act on that. That's consistent across the board. And then of course there's an amendment policy too. So if later on down the road, we think, this isn't really a good fit, or maybe we need to tweak this language, there's a set procedure to do that. As the town's HR department, I really like having clear policies that you can apply unilaterally. It makes the job much easier because there's one standard and everybody's got to follow it. One thing in this that I would change is your contract negotiation policy. And so this one I put a lot of thought into, and I did some other outside research. So if I haven't gone too fast and you're ready for me to say what I'd like to change it to, I can. I personally and professionally think that you should do away with this policy, and I'll tell you why. If you had said to me as an incoming town administrator, you've gone through two interview processes, and now you have to meet with a contract negotiation committee. And maybe we meet one time and we say, okay, this is the agreement, you take it back. I say, no, that's another potential meeting with a body that's ultimately not the hiring authority. So we may come to an agreement, but then we're gonna take it to the hiring authority and they may have something different. It ends up being a lot more time and not very efficient for oncoming employees. And in fact, like I said, if you had told me that, I would have personally been a little off put, because I would prefer to just negotiate with people who sign my contract. That's pretty standard business practice. But I also think that you run into the risk of hollow promises. So again, we've said something in the negotiation committee that maybe we can't fully act on because we don't have the appointing authority. Again, it can slow down the decision-making process. But really, when I was doing a lot of research there, I found a passage from a textbook that said, a fundamental principle of effective labor relations is that the same body that negotiates the terms of employment should also be responsible for their application and enforcement. So it's more in line with common HR practices to just have it be that one-on-one. And again, I think if you look at it from a practical perspective, if I'm just negotiating with the select board, there's not that middleman, so I get more relationship building with them right off the bat, instead of having to go between an intermediary and then say, well, now I'll take it back to the final destination of it. So I hope that made sense.
It does make sense. Traditionally in our town, it has been a committee, it's representational of two boards and one committee, I guess is, and the town administrator. And I'm not sure how other people feel about that. But personally, I think I understand it slows the process down, but it also brings different views and, so it doesn't become so insular. And also acknowledging that ultimately it is the select board that does the appointing. And I guess I find myself, I'm curious, Kathy, as you have been a director of an HR department, and I'm curious about your thoughts as well.
I like the idea of having a variety of input into the interview process. I think that's where it's important to get the variety of viewpoints. But to Haley's point, I think I agree with her that you don't, by the time you're at that stage, I don't think you need to slow the process down. I think it makes sense to have the hiring body, the folks making the decision be the ones doing the negotiating.
The other thing I would say is that the ones signing the contract are the ones who have to, they have to be satisfied that they want to sign a contract. There can be all the committees in the world that say, we want this person to work here, but if the select board, for example, as the signing body, who's going to sign a contract, they have to want to do it. I guess that's consistent with what you're suggesting, basically. And
Well, having it more representational still does not take away the ultimate hiring authority. I think that is true. I don't know. I know, Veronica, you're brand new to this, and also Melissa.
I've been on a lot of interview committees, so that I have done, because I was department head too, so, but, and so I do agree, it's good when you're interviewing to have people from a lot of different perspectives, especially ones that are gonna work with, the person that's being interviewed. But when it comes down to money, we never really had much to do with that. That always came, from the administration. So I can see as far as negotiating money, how that could bypass a committee issue.
Well, what I'm thinking, Haley, if you could draft up your suggestions, your changes, that would be helpful.
Sure.
I understand this in the context of we've had some challenging negotiations recently, and I think it's in the town's best interest to really be able to hire and make the contracting process functional. But it's hard not to want it to be more representational as it has been.
Have you ever done like a personnel board meeting with staff?
No.
Say that again, Haley. So like, in Amherst, they had a personnel board, and I think once a year, maybe twice a year, the personnel board would meet with all the town staff. I can't remember if they divided it by like department head or other, but it was a way for the personnel board to hear from employees, what is their experience like, what are some of the challenges working for the town? So I think that might be a way for you to get the representation you want. But, I'll just reiterate that I think the contract negotiation process should be streamlined. And I think it's almost like two different stories, right? When you're negotiating a first contract versus a renewal, which I think is something that has been a challenge.
Yes. Okay, so if you can draft that.
Right. I was gonna say, if you do draft it and put it in it, if you could make your changes like a different color so that we could kind of distinguish it just for the draft, or.
Can I make a suggestion with like changes, like a section change, maybe put it separately and then we can incorporate it.
Yeah.
Because thinking of how in the past we've worked with the personnel board doing things and editing them, might be if it's a section piece, we could do it on individually and then add it in once we've got it correct, or got it the way we're comfortable with.
Okay.
present that as a whole, to the select board.
I see.
Does the handbook get voted on by us, by the select board?
Recommended by
the-
personnel.
But we vote on it.
I
so-
thought, yeah, it's
Okay.
policy, yeah.
All right. I mean, my position is that the contract negotiation, should be done by the ultimate supervising. I think we've had a demonstration this last year of how a representative type of situation did not work. Because there was a lack of information, and some of the personnel information was people were not privy to and couldn't be privy to, that we were ultimately the people who oversaw those staff people, that they were responsible to, and the buck sort of stops here, stops with the select board as the higher, as the supervisors, yeah.
And I realize we're in a position in our town where we really are, sort of moving out of small town process into something more in the at least the 20th century, maybe the 21st, at least the 20th century, yes.
Well, April, it's because now we hadn't had, when the book was made, right, initially, it would, at the time, the technology was very simple, and it's so complicated now. There is the social media, there is the electronic uses, there is email etiquette, all of those things were not something that could be thought of necessarily at that time. And, it does provide a great basis for this, though. And there's some things that I'd change in here too, just to mimic the benefits that were in that old one and things of that nature. And we can do that as we go along, but, yeah, we have to standardize and become, up, 21st century, jump in the 21st century, And I
Well,
think
and I'm
that's-
not,
oh,
go ahead.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
It should be a living document. I think
Yeah.
that's why it's important to have the amendment procedure, because things will change. And as long as we have a way to handle the changes, I think we're on much better footing.
Sometimes they change within an hour of adopting the
Oh,
document.
absolutely.
Yeah,
That's
that's true.
that thing, it's like, change.
That is true. Well, and in retrospect, I'm not sure how this process evolved. It's as long as I've known in my many years of being involved in town government, I'm not sure where it came from. But I think that the important part is that there be a representational part. Different eyes have to be on this process. And I understand what you're saying. If it's done through not through the hiring committee, the interview process, not through the contracting process. It's an interesting idea. And if it would be great if you could draft that up and we could have a look at that. That makes sense.
Do that.
So, it's funny, I'm not clear how we should go forward with this document. We need, we could spend hours by putting it up online and going section by section, and maybe that is what we need to do. It's just to really thoroughly evaluate and examine every part of it. I mean,
I hate to interrupt you. We have a couple of people in the audience here, which you can't see on camera. And Penny Kim had to comment before you moved on to the process.
Oh, thank you, Penny.
What I'm hearing, and I think this is great because we're modernizing, moving toward a human resource perspective, as opposed to just being another town committee. And I think this gives employees a whole other level of support and enthusiasm. What I'm most interested in, as you're looking at contract negotiation, how evaluation fits in. That has always been the real challenge. And we're talking about perhaps another way of getting some broader representation. And maybe this, and I'm interested to hear how you're thinking on that as merchants.
Did you guys hear that?
Not terribly well.
Okay, so essentially, the question was, now that we're kind of thinking about this from more of like an HR perspective, and how do we weave in employee evaluations into the process, like in a way that's fair for everybody, right?
Right, and the contract negotiation, the renewals,
Yes,
I think that's the.
yeah, because they're hand in hand with the renewal. And I have thoughts on that too. And I also have thoughts on being efficient with time. So one thing that I would really like to see first and foremost is that we can come to an understanding on contracts. Because we have one contract that's up and we need to start working on an offer. And we're also gonna have a hiring committee going forward, so we should probably have those set up. Those should be our 2 priorities. I think that, I had a lot of thoughts about employee evaluations, and then I also talked to a lawyer and I was like, oh, okay. I think that at the very least, department heads need a really clear performance evaluation procedure. They need something in a handbook that is articulated how you're gonna be judged, when it's gonna happen, who's gonna be doing it, and so on. I have some of that in the handbook. You don't want, the reason that I like employee evaluations is obviously you want to capture some bad behavior, but it really should be to help also track good behavior and help your employees be the best employee they can be. I never like to go into negotiations thinking like this is an adversarial relationship. We both want what's best for you, what's best for the town. So in that sense, you want to have that for your department heads. I think it's not unreasonable to do at least a yearly, you could have people do maybe a self-reflection after 6 months, during the year, where are you on the goals? What are things that, we talked about a year or 6 months ago that still aren't happening? And I would recommend for supervisors, and this is where the lawyer did give me a good lesson. Performance evaluations are only as good as the person doing them. If you have somebody who's not comfortable giving constructive feedback and not comfortable doing things the way they need to be done, they will come back to haunt you. Because what you'll happen is you'll have an employee who for 10 years, everyone said was great. Someone new comes in and they recognize, oh, this person's not so great. How do you remedy that action? Because all your evidence says, well, they're great and they're doing their job. So if you want to extend that beyond department heads, it's worth thinking about training for supervisors, because people have to be good at doing the evaluation or else it's meaningless. Now at town administrator level, like I feel really confident in doing evaluation, but I would definitely want to train other folks so that they have that same skill set, if that's something we want to apply universally.
One question that, and this has come up a number of times in terms of, contract negotiations, evaluations. If the contract negotiation is being done by the select board, that has to be executive session. So that's, but evaluations are actually, you're talking one-to-one with the employee, yeah.
I'm talking your human resource director, AKA your town administrator, sitting down with each department head and saying, how are we progressing on these goals? At a minimum, that's what should be happening.
And so I remember, so how is the town administrator evaluated? How would that fit in?
I didn't
put that
in the handbook, not because I don't want to be evaluated, but it felt weird writing a policy that would then apply to me. So I'm a suggestion.
Yeah.
You should involve the select board.
Yes.
In that case.
And that, I assume that we would have the chair of the select board do it.
Yeah, and maybe that's something where the personnel board could be, maybe it's one member there and, the select board member. Maybe if I do evaluations, a personnel board member is with me. Sometimes it's good to have 2 people in the room, especially if it doesn't go quite so nice. It can be helpful.
My experience over the years with performance evaluations has been that they're dreaded on both sides of the conversation in many cases. So if you can make the process as clear and simple as possible, you'll get a better outcome. You'll get more cooperation and more participation. I think in my experience, what has always helped was having the employee do some self-reflection or a self-evaluation, because then when the manager is going into the meeting to have the conversation, they kind of have a sense of what they're getting into. Sometimes employees think they walk on water when the performance evaluation is really not going to be that good. So I think an annual evaluation at the very least is a good idea. If a manager is comfortable and willing, and maybe the job is a little more complicated, biannual would definitely be helpful. It makes the whole process that much easier if they're communicating more regularly. So, but it is the kind of thing that some managers breeze through and are really, really good at doing performance evaluations, even when it involves delivering not so great feedback. There are other managers who need that training that you suggested, Haley, that, maybe something we'll have to think about offering to some people, some managers.
I agree, Kathy, because I don't think it's a good idea if you have somebody who's not performing, that you wait till even for a 6-month review to say, I'm dissatisfied with your performance. If in the third month of their job, there's a problem, well, they should hear about it in month 3, that there should be a sit down. So I think that's that is the problem with performance evaluations, and especially with annual performance evaluations, that, the feedback should be coming on a regular basis so that people can improve as they're going along, instead of like, boom, being slammed and saying, well, why didn't you tell me? Now I'm not getting a raise because I was doing a crappy job, and and you never told me. And it sets up this dynamic where everybody's like incredibly fearful, where if people are told on a, if it's not made into this like trauma. So I don't know, maybe we call it something else. It's like a performance update
Or
something,
conversation.
a performance conversation that is used to, when we go, but it's not.
Not supposed to be punitive.
It's
supposed to be
not
helpful.
punitive. It's supposed to be, let's help you to do your job. If you're not doing your job well, let's help you do your job better. If you're doing your job well, great, keep doing, this is what you're doing really well. But let's not leave it for long periods of time, because that doesn't serve anybody well. It doesn't serve the employer well. It doesn't serve the employee well. So I think if we can call it something and just, make it kind of a little bit more routine, then it doesn't become such a big deal.
But the question that it raises for me is the role of supervision, because that's where I understand the sort of the ongoing dialogue about how somebody's doing. It's not really a performance evaluation, but it's a place where you talk about how things are going in a job. That I think that's where a lot of that happens, is in supervision. And I also, and maybe this is just because this is who I am, is want it to be a dialogue, that the employee may have some ideas or some, about how the department should be run better, what that kind of idea. It's not just a one-way evaluation, but that it becomes a dialogue. And we're a small enough town. It's like, we're not talking about thousands of people. But, the issue, and I don't think supervision is talked about in the handbook.
Description. Yeah, well, I think very much like you, April. I think, a lot of it is exactly like how you're saying. And part of that too also comes from the top down. People in town hall know, if I'm not around, you know how to get a hold of me. I very rarely ever close the door. I have people coming in and out, and that's okay, because I say to folks, I don't want you to make a mistake. If you just ask me a question, you don't have to make a mistake. I will always have time for any number of questions, because if we're talking about something, then it's not gonna be an issue, right? Because there's gonna be a lot of communication. Like, I check in with my department heads, with Brennan. There's a lot of communication in that way, and so as town administrator, I'm seeing more of like the day-to-day, so I know, okay, maybe I asked this person, can you do this report, or I need you to work on this project and it's not happening. I can coach them, and when it gets to the point where the appointing authority needs to be involved, then we can ratchet it up. But like I've been saying, the goal should never be, just not being able to work with someone. You want your employees to feel like they're contributing, because human resources are your greatest asset. You will spend so much more money having to hire and retrain than you ever will if you can just work with the talent pool that you have. So that's always really important to me, and that's something that trickles down to people when they're working in an organization like that. Because they understand that you're not just a number, you're not just your employee ID, like, you're valued.
And,
So
but
Haley,
and-
maybe,
oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say to Haley, maybe, just in terms of thinking about on the evaluation or wherever, whatever we're calling it, sort of how, what an approach might be, given this conversation.
I come, going back to, Kathy's thing about people kind of dread them.
Yeah,
I've been under two systems of that. The secondary one I'm in now is much preferred over the first. I can give you what that structure is. It's more of a conversation.
yeah.
Than a solid, hard evaluation. So I think that is, but I think it's important, and one of the things my employers come at, it was nothing should be a surprise in that evaluation, because there should be
Right.
micro conversations all the way through. Shouldn't be a surprise, so.
And I also think we're in an interesting situation where the department heads are supposed to, they're experts in their fields, and the town administrator is not a highway department chief, or, a fire. I mean, that there's an imbalance in terms of expertise, and how that is acknowledged in the dialogue, in the performance
Yeah.
evaluation. I wouldn't know how to evaluate how a fire chief is, certain things. You said?
Oh, I was gonna say, I don't wanna be a highway super. One of the first things I say to department heads is, I'm not the expert, like,
Right.
you're the expert. You just give me the updates so that nothing is a surprise to me. But you're the expert in your field, and I don't want your job.
Right.
And I trust people, and I also make it a point to say, look, like, my goal is not to micromanage. I don't have time for that. You should know your job expectations. I'm just here to kind of coach you along and pull all the pieces together so everything's running smoothly. Because they know what they're supposed to be doing, and if they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, then we can micromanage and have some conversations. But I try to always trust that people, I give everyone the benefit of the doubt, because that's just how I would want someone to approach my work.
Makes sense. So
Mhm.
I'm curious how you, Haley, are envisioning moving forward. I know that you've been working without this policy, so it's been sort of amorphous to you, but for you, how are you envisioning, weekly supervision, bi-weekly? I mean, how are you envisioning your
For
supervision and evaluation?
Well, I'm in pretty regular touch with everyone. We'll check in individually,
Mhm.
multiple times a week, whether it's an email or a phone call or a quick text. I think I've said to you guys, I want to keep you in the loop as much as possible, because the more I tell you, the less I'll forget to tell you later on. So it behooves me to say it early. When it comes to department heads, usually it's, some people I do a regular meeting, some people, they just come to me when they know that there's an issue and they need help on something. I try not to, I was at a seminar once and someone said, only plan like 75% of your day. Because that other percentage of your day is gonna go totally off the rails. And ever since then, I've been living my life like that, and it's much better. When you build in the time for things to go wrong.
So you can actually do 75% of a planned day as a TA in this little town?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Some days it's more, some days it's less. So, you know, for me, it's just, you know, I don't know, I don't wanna sound cliche, but you just have to do it every day. You know, you have to be talking to people, you have to have that door open, you have to take those phone calls. Or if you can't call them, have someone else do it. And I think what I would say of my impressions of this town is that that just hasn't been happening. And so we're getting a lot of issues that have spiraled from that. And so we might be tempted to adopt specific policies for those issues. But I think at core, if we just do the basic things, everything else is gonna fall into place. You know, if we're always on the team and we're always talking, like we do department head meetings now, then you're not gonna have those issues crop up because you should be able to catch them sooner. And so I would just hate for us to be too reactionary and create policies that we don't really need because we just haven't been doing our ABC.
I was just going to ask Haley, how are people responding to your approach versus what they were used to? Are they being receptive to?
My face. Very receptive. Like, I don't know everything. No, one person told me that they're slowly learning my brand of humor, which is really helpful, because if you know that, then you're fine.
Right.
But you can definitely see it. There's a calmer atmosphere at town hall now, and I've really certainly been enjoying that. So.
Good. I was just curious.
Mhm. So, I mean, I think that the personnel board that our next, there's couple of things. I think our next step is really to go through the document page by page and you know, have it up on the screen and just do it and any edits. I found a few little things, but I think we need to do it as a whole. And that makes sense. And I think the other piece, you know, getting the job, the what do you call it? The grading system. Losing the word. It's
Classification.
Classification. Thank you. There it goes. It's that word. I think that is also a very high priority to get that done, because that they dovetail together in many ways. So I've been on that for years and have not quite completed it, but I'm determined to get this done, and I need another person to do it with me. I know Anne and I had talked about doing it. She's not here. I think I'll go back to her and see if she's willing to try to do that again. All of our work is in the personnel board file in Brennan's office. So it's all right there. I think another really important thing is that job descriptions really need to be online, so that, you know, people have access to it. And the tradition has been that we, over time, you know, we've asked department heads, here's your job description. How would you imagine tweaking it? You know, any input from from department heads. And then when somebody leaves, that's when we look at it again. And that's not the most efficient way to get it done. And somehow none of this has ended up online, which I like, where is that job description in that conversation? And I'm wondering where you might be in compiling the job descriptions and of that fun.
For me, it's actually, I'll be honest, it's very hard. The record system that exists, I think may have worked like on an individual level, but I don't think it's been set up in such a way that it's easy to go back and finding the information. So there's been lots of things I have to create from scratch. I do like your job description idea. I think they should be on the website. There's a lot of things that I think we could enhance, you know, the visibility of. And I would certainly suggest that we start with the police chief job description first.
Mhm.
Since we have to have a committee for that.
Well, how do you evaluate somebody if they don't have a job description that's up to date? That's, and how do you do that?
So usually I'll, you know, for example, if I ever want like a sounding board for something and I don't know, I usually fall back to colleagues. You know, like I might say, so the former fire chief, or the fire chief in Amherst, you know, if I just want like to bounce, yeah, can you know, how would you approach this? You know, what are some other facets of the job? You know, I think it's good to talk to your employees, but you know, it's also good to just hear about what other towns are doing. So I try to like leverage, you know, the connections that I've made. Which has been really helpful. You know, one thing I was, I don't know, this might be like jumping the gun, but so for like the police chief search committee, I was gonna suggest one of the things you might want to do is to have a police chief from another community, probably not Leverett, just because of
Yeah.
the agreement and
Right.
everything, but have that person be on the search committee. Because how do you know what you need if you don't have someone on the committee that can really speak to that? You know, so those are things that you know, you might want to consider, but you know, say we had to hire for a new fire chief, we do the same thing, that, and I've seen that done in many different communities. Because it's hard to, like you said, I don't know their job, but if they're another chief, you probably have a good idea.
I find it would be hard, it's hard to imagine that a police chief from another town would take that time out, but maybe they would, because it is maybe they would.
I put full favor. I put that in full favor.
Well, it may be something where you pick a police chief or fire chief with a town you do mutual aid in, because then they'll be working with them, right? So maybe that's where you know.
So can I bring us back?
Yes, you may.
Because, I just want to make sure we're clear on a couple of things. So we have a contract we have to do.
Yes.
Are we in agreement about moving forward? So this is the contract for the fire chief. Are we in agreement that the select board is gonna do that contract negotiation? If everybody's on board with that?
So why don't I make a motion?
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah. That that the personnel board support moving forward in contract negotiations, that be done by the contracting authority, which is the select board.
You want to say for the fire chief?
I say what?
Do you want to say who it's for?
Oh, yes, the fire chief. This is for the fire chief, yes. And yeah, so I don't know if I hear a second.
I second that.
And again, I think this is an opportunity to see if this works in our town. You know, and see how this process goes forward, and then maybe we could come back and get feedback. And was this sufficient? Was it a successful negotiation? Okay, so all in favor?
Need to vote.
Yes.
Richter, I.
Salvador, I.
Stein, aye.
Hey, please, Sonia, why?
Okay.
Okay, and then the next thing I was gonna ask is, can we set a deadline, April, for when the personnel committee will have gone through? This has been a long time coming,
Yeah,
I
we
know,
wanna
and
do
it's a
it.
lot of work to
Yes.
go through that,
Yes.
document, but.
Well, let me get you my edits by Monday, and then then you can, because then you don't have to go back. You know, if there's something I've changed, I don't want you to read it twice. If I get that to you guys by Monday, and then I can have a date.
Well, I was just gonna say, is September
Next meeting.
1st realistic?
Yeah,
Oh,
We
I
might
think
need a
so.
couple of meetings.
I think I
Yes.
think we
Is
can,
that too much time? Like 2 meetings? Can you do 2 meetings by?
well, April, maybe we consider, maybe this is what we consider is working. Maybe then we can do a couple working sessions just for this and not
Absolutely.
other things.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I'm imagining, but I think September 1st might be difficult getting people together in August. But how about by the equinox? The vernal equinox,
How about,
that's fall, that's the next, because that would give us, this is our July meeting, August meeting, and that only gives us one more meeting.
my
do
suggestion,
that.
might actually add it in a meeting or two just
Yeah.
for this
Yeah,
particular
couldn't you
item.
just add it? I mean, you guys meet remotely, so couldn't you just have like a couple of meetings in 1 month?
Sure,
It's doable. We do
it's
it.
doable, it's doable, let's do it.
Yeah. We do it every day.
Yeah, this is like,
Bragger.
Can I just say,
Well, we did, there was weeks we were doing 2 and 3 a week for like.
Oh,
months.
yeah.
can I just say before we're negotiating with
Yeah.
the fire chief, we should have the updated contract, I mean, updated job description, right?
I
Oh,
think
yeah.
that was updated, the job description for the fire chief was updated when we hired our new one. We had that whole
Okay.
committee,
Okay.
That was
So
more
that-
recent than the
All
other.
right.
that is a more recent one.
Although I do think the police chief one was updated before that contract was signed 3 years ago, so I'll look in my email. I think
Okay.
it was done. At least glance at.
Okay,
I feel like it was looked at.
okay,
I
all
did.
right. That is
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
And I'm
Okay,
wondering,
so-
how-
Let's say September, let's aspire.
let's try it. Yes,
First.
let's aspire and we'll get extra pay.
You'll get time and a half.
Oh, you're okay.
Especially if all of you can go through it before you meet,
Right.
then
Mhm. That'll
I'm
save
gonna
some
do
time.
it. I mean, I read it, I would like watch TV and then I'd read it and, you know,
Yeah.
it's a lot to go through in one sitting, but if you just take it and you can mark it up, and some of the sections are pretty straightforward, you'll
Yes.
find.
That's what
And
I
we-
found.
April, as we do, we can think about, you know, it's like the first meeting is section or page 1 or through X. And then the next one is, so you have a little homework in
Yeah.
segments, you know, I think we can.
And if you spend time on it before you meet, then. then-
Yeah.
So do people feel like it would be helpful to have Haley present? Because for
Yeah,
this,
I could do that. Well, the TA has always been part of
Yes,
our
that's
committee or board.
okay, so
Becky was part of our meetings all the time and,
absolutely.
yeah, so
Absolutely.
I think that Haley can play that role.
And we need somebody who knows how to share a screen.
Haley and
Not
I can
figured
figure that one out.
Not figured that out.
You can do that.
Okay, so I think that why don't we aspire to September 1st? I think it's really important. And it seems like those other big sections like employee evaluation, those appendices also need to be done but I'm assuming that Haley is working on drafts for those as well at this point.
Yeah.
Because that's 75% of her day right there.
Right.
Planned.
Absolutely. So why doesn't do anybody else have any comments about what we're proposing? Does this seem too onerous?
I think we can do it.
I think we can do it.
I think. we
And
can do it.
Veronica, you're hitting the ground running.
We have confidence in you guys.
All right. So why don't we set let's set our next meeting. We'll have, I'm wondering about the last, like,
The 31st,
yes.
2
Is there
weeks from now.
2 weeks from today, yeah, the last
Mhm.
week in July, the last Thursday of July.
That
And
works
then
for
we could
me.
meet again in August and we should have it done.
Mhm,
All right, at 5:30.
mhm. That's good for me.
Okay, I have a concert that starts at 7, so that
Well,
night, but
You have to,
July
July
31st.
31st.
You mean at 5:30? Would that give, okay.
If we
And
moved
we'll
it
let-
back to 5 PM, would that work for everybody? And make it easier for you, Veronica?
5 would work better, yes,
Okay, let's do 5.
okay.
Okay,
Okay,
the 31st at
No.
5.
Board.
Board, excuse me. Thank you for snowboard.
Haley, can you? Meeting? Yes. Or, okay, better, yeah.
Okay. And so Haley, you're gonna need, I don't know how, I don't have the magic to how to get Zoom going, the Zoom meetings going. So this will have to be on you for now.
Okay, that's
Um,
fine.
Okay. Okay, so this is scary, but do I hear a motion to adjourn?
so
So,
moved.
Any second? All right, roll call vote.
Richter,
Salvador, I.
Stein, aye, and Makepeace O'Neill.
Make me Sonia live.
We need to get our alphabet in order.
I know.
I know.
We do.
Finance committees.
I know, we were very meticulous.
That's right. We'll get it.
I
Okay,
usually
so-
let whoever's on screen go first just because.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
So this has been, I feel like this has been a very helpful, productive meeting.
yeah,
Yes,
thank you
yeah,
very
thank you.
much.
All right.
okay,
See you
Thanks,
later.
Select Board,
bye.
so long.
Bye.
Okay.
All right. Moving on now back to our meeting. We had moved your administrator goal, town
Yeah.
administrator goal to after this discussion. So if
I
you'd
printed
like to,
some of the goals that have been articulated.
Bill?
You two mind sharing?
No,
I didn't make enough. So yeah, where do you want to start?
let's see,
At the beginning.
At the beginning? Okay. It's gonna take us
At the
back a little
beginning.
while.
I like this tractor, by the way. This is-
Yeah,
I'm saying,
yeah.
like, we were just talking about 21st century.
Mhm.
This may be on that, but this looks great.
It just, it's fun. It makes it more fun.
Yes,
Color coded.
and fun support.
It is.
Yeah.
So this is sort of the, can you just describe the
So
parts of this?
the
and
front page is the project. So those are
Yeah.
some of like the big themes that you had expressed
Mhm,
were important in
mhm.
town.
Yep.
And then it breaks down into different sub goals that I think at some point, one or more of you had articulated. So, so each, category has several subtasks and, one thing, there's information and technology, there's communication, fiscal management, regional and state interests, town services, special projects. Communication is probably a huge one, and from that, everything else flows. So it's, getting those department head meetings up and running, supporting communication across different agencies in town and fostering, I think someone had said fostering effective meeting management, which I liked. That was a good one.
You've done that well.
I think so, that's one thing I can hopefully check off. The fiscal management, obviously ensuring that we maintain good financial practices, but then also trying to look into the future. What are 5-year projections that we can make, how are we gonna prioritize our capital needs? And my impression is that some of those will need to be a little more formalized. I think things are kind of, we might have a spreadsheet, but it might not be the most up-to-date spreadsheet, so a lot of these tasks have things that need to happen to get the foundation built. For example, if we're talking town services and employees, we gotta get the personnel book together before we can start looking at, how can we be more attractive to people? How can we retain our employees? How can we promote Shutesbury as a good work environment? Making sure that I'm in close collaboration with our state senator and our state reps, advocating for the Quabbin bill, or there's a new Senator Comerford put through something on municipal building funds,
Oh, yeah.
like they have for
Oh, yeah.
libraries and schools, so that would help us, with all their
Yeah.
public safety infrastructure or the town hall. So staying abreast of that, there's some special projects like PFAS. And
That's all PFAS.
yeah, that's gonna be probably ongoing for a while.
Yeah.
Making sure that town services are efficient. Are there things we're doing that could maybe be automated or make it easier for someone to do it online versus having to come in? So there's a lot of different components, information and technology, making sure that we have the right record storage system that's not boxes in the basement of town hall. Making sure there's security programs on all the computers. So
in some of these, I mean, you say, it says not started, but some of the things are underway, so
Yeah.
I'm just curious, like,
I should have followed my own convention and double checked that I
yeah.
checked out everything, because I can see, I agree,
Right.
there's a
Yeah,
couple that
I mean,
have been started.
um,
It's usually not something, like, I have it in my head,
mhm.
but it's not necessarily something I check every day or like check off as
Right,
soon as
right,
it's done, so
right.
I might be looking at this like once every other month. So
Okay,
that's why it's not like
okay,
super
Um,
making change.
so kind of,
Neil has a question.
Point of information, this document in the agenda.
No, it's my
No,
printout.
no, it's the,
People can refer to it.
Yeah, I just would have to update it, just so that some of the things that are in progress are marked in progress.
Well, I'm thinking about foregoing complaints about material not being available.
But this is still personnel related.
yeah, but the complaint we had was that we hadn't listed the names of all of the
Yeah.
appointees. But it had been listed, so that's something that we, we were required
This would
to,
not be
yeah,
required.
this wouldn't be part, yeah, this is part of what, yeah.
It might be good advertising to do something with it, like you're suggesting. But yeah.
So can we just go through some of these? So under communication, so schedule department heads to meet monthly with select board. I think we could probably, I mean, we haven't been doing that. Is bi-monthly, every 2 months make more sense? So we haven't had any meetings with, the fire chief or the highway superintendent was in here
Last time.
We talked in last meeting. about
Yeah.
the Firm and stuff.
Yeah,
It's-
but that was a separate meeting.
Yeah,
about the
yeah.
berm, right? Did we have a
No,
separate
that's
meeting?
select
about the
board
berm?
meeting.
That was a select board meeting.
I
But we
think-
didn't talk to him generally, that was on a
Like a
very
general update,
specific.
like
Right.
I was thinking more of a,
Like,
I mean, they're
yeah,
meeting with you,
Yeah.
right?
but
And
like what
then,
Brennan did, just something that's more general so that you can all hear.
right.
Yeah,
So,
that-
I mean, would your recommendation is to schedule them every couple of months?
I would say that's good.
Or quarterly,
Quarterly is probably fine. It's still a small town,
right?
And
And you can tell us.
yeah.
If
we
when-
can
there's
do
something
that.
If there's
Yeah,
something
yeah,
that's
yeah.
more immediate, so to change this
Yeah,
to quarterly.
Yeah, I think so.
And then one thing I was also gonna offer, I have to bring it up at a department head meeting first, was maybe the possibility of having like the select board liaison come and sit in at a department head meeting. So that
Eric
we
and
could-
I did that when Gabe had her first one.
Yeah, that was
and
good.
The conversation was very unfiltered, which was great.
That's good.
Like, it was just like, it was a great listening session for us.
Yeah, that's good.
And I would say more like it could be the whole select board, because I think that would be, I mean, we'd have to.
You'd
post
just be
it.
listening.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, like, although we did participate a little bit, but Rita was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Not maybe every one of them, but maybe.
No.
So I'd say like we would shoot for September to have,
Start
the
scheduling
department
the
heads,
first one?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And then review management and reporting structure, staff liaison assignments and adjust as needed. I mean, maybe we're all set with that now, is that,
I
Do you think
yeah,
it's,
I think so. And once it gets codified in the employee handbook, I think then that's pretty much well taken care of.
You
'cause
can
that'll
say
be
that that started then.
yeah, so underway?
Yeah.
And this, I would just say this is planned. So just, and then I would put like September.
Okay.
Boards and committees for effective operations and meetings. So one of the things with that is, I know Grace wants to do like the open meeting law
Yes.
training.
Yes,
So I don't know if you can put notes in any of these.
Mhm. I
Um,
can go back and do that.
so I would put the open meeting law training. Does she have that scheduled?
She's at a conference this week, but I will check
Okay.
with her when she's back.
Okay. Yeah. And I would also say, if you go to meetings, if there are any meetings that you go to where you might, give pointers to the chair about running a meeting in a,
Mhm.
you know, yeah, just,
Yeah, this is something I've definitely not had as much time to go to different
Yeah,
meetings.
yeah.
But I'm
no,
gonna,
I understand.
Do a
It's
calendar.
just, I think, yeah.
well, I also like, you know, if the meeting starts at 5 and ends at 7, we better be out the door by 7.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Erica would like that.
Yeah,
yeah, be punctual.
that's great.
I've enjoyed it as well, but on other select boards that was not
Yes.
that.
Yeah,
Right.
no,
No, like to run a tight meeting.
yeah, well,
So the technology
Mhm.
stuff, some of that's underway already, right?
Yes. So at the next meeting, I'll have more information, but I've heard back from one of the 3 acoustic companies about improving the audio quality in this room. I have the budget from Gail Huntress for the IT
good.
technology grant.
Okay.
So, and it's actually really nice because you can just look at every item and just add that to cart.
Okay,
So that can get done fairly quickly.
okay,
See, the technology needs, I mean, that's gonna be ongoing. I think for us, it's a lot of software right now, not necessarily hardware that we need to be looking at. And yeah,
Edmund Spear Library, that's underway.
Underneath that technology with software, is there any thought to, you know, like training for, usually they're small, but and it's escaping me at the moment, cyber training.
oh, yeah, Mass has a grant program where you can do the cybersecurity training, like, we had that in Amherst, and like, you know, they send you like a test scam email to see if you fall for
Uh-huh,
it, and you have to
uh-huh.
do all like the classes. It can be kind of cumbersome, it's,
I
You have
just
to-
go overall general, like, you know.
yeah, I mean, we can definitely look into it. It can be hard to get participation, so if there's some kind of like incentive to offer, I think we'll get better results. Cause I remember for a year since they got the grant, Amherst, it was always, please do your training. No one's doing their training.
Uh-huh,
Okay,
Yeah, so that could be something I'll visit at some point.
yeah,
and then the record storage stuff, this is would be a great test for Brennan.
I know.
Just because, like, for
Yeah.
him to go through that and also to like see all this stuff that's here.
Well, I think first step is to reach out and make sure we have all the dates of which we're supposed to keep information.
Yeah,
'Cause I have a funny feeling there's things in here that we no longer need to keep, and that's
Right.
an easy one to just.
right.
Oh.
I think, Grace has that.
Great,
Yeah.
and,
Right.
and,
Yeah, I think the
and I
town clerk.
remember, I think there's an email where Gabe had emailed around the guidelines from the state
Okay.
for record retention.
Yeah. But to even know what we have to do an
Mhm.
inventory, because, just knowing what's in all of those file
Yeah.
drawers. I know if you were looking for stuff, like I was saying, oh, like there was contracts in this drawer, but it would be really good to know what's where.
Yeah.
Well, over
File
Old
location,
Town Hall, it's always
record.
piles of annual
Oh,
report.
Leslie, I think
mean-
Leslie probably has a pretty good sense of what's
Right.
over there.
I mean, I'm not saying we shouldn't keep annual reports. We don't need like 40 copies
Right.
of the 1930 settlement,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
That is something I have found is that there's lots of duplicates
Yeah.
of things that, you
Yeah.
know, we don't need to keep 10 copies.
Right.
Right, that's something, yeah. So the capital planning committee, I don't think they're probably they haven't met again.
They will be soon. I know Ellen is on them.
Okay.
So earlier this week, I got the list from George of all the capital planning projects. So that's been sent to the relevant department heads to update.
Oh,
So
okay.
that when they do meet, they at least have what really needs to be done. We also, thanks to Brennan, he distributed the equipment and vehicle list for our insurance company.
Oh,
So we
good.
were able to update that. That hadn't been done.
Okay, that's
So-
great. All right, and the finance committee, so that'll get done and yeah, grant opportunities, okay. So the regional and state interests of the relationships, I mean, have you met with the FERC people? You've met with some of them, haven't
Oh,
you?
yeah.
So that's underway. You
They
said
gave
that-
me a whole tour.
Uh-huh,
I actually
okay.
just talked to Bob Dean the other day. He gave me some contract or RFP forms
Oh,
that we
good,
can copy for one of the Concom projects.
okay,
So
great.
yeah, they've been helpful. I talked to the rep at Life Path too about their age and dementia friendly stuff
yeah.
that they're doing here. That's how I found out about the youth gardening club.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Um,
okay,
So yeah,
you gotta give yourself some credit here.
I know. I hate.
You're not started, underway, I'm
I
writing
think, and some of them
underway.
could probably be listed as ongoing, because I
Yes,
think
I'm
they have
writing
to
on-
stop.
I just wrote
No.
underway,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay, in the new personnel policy handbook,
Yep,
working with personnel, part of this is underway. So all of this stuff around the special projects, so who is who do we have as the consultant on the dam that was doing all the work?
GZA.
GZA,
yeah.
Yeah.
right. So are we on schedule with anything that we needed to do with GZA?
As far as I'm aware, I think that right now it's just waiting to find out if we get the grant or not for their
Okay.
scope of work.
Okay,
But then I don't think that comes out until, I want to say September, October. So
okay,
there's still a couple months to wait.
okay. So I'm just gonna be waiting on the grant. The Army Corps of Engineers, we just got notified, so that's underway. So did you guys see that? The
I
Army
did,
Corps
I
is
did.
starting
They're gonna
work
bring,
on,
the army to
the Army's coming to town.
Los Angeles, to Lotto 32.
Yeah. So that's next, I think that's next week, right? Okay,
Then I
They were
know.
coordinating with the construction group to.
yes, with the contractor. And then the PFAS stuff, there's nothing new, right? I mean, that's just ongoing.
Yeah.
You never heard anything back from, Elena or from,
I can have to
About-
follow up on that. There's also something, I had also wanted to talk to Elena about the Claude and Mark and
Oh,
what they're doing.
Yeah.
so-
yeah, I just don't want that to drop off their, screen about whether or not, because remember, we didn't get that. That 0% loan that we thought we were
Yeah, yeah,
getting, and
right,
then they made the mistake, so we wanted to see if we could get any money
Right.
from. The state, right,
I remember. The Clean Water Trust was the.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Sorry. Okay. Well, I mean, overall, I, I think you've jumped in with both feet and,
Yeah.
and really, picked up, a lot of stuff and, put out a lot of fires.
I told
And-
George Avernaitis that I'm earning my keep. I feel
Uh-huh.
like, you know.
I think I think, have us on a really good path and that, I think it's been bumpy, it wasn't it was not an easy start. You did not walk into a a really straightforward situation, and I think you've handled it with grace and with, poise.
Thank you.
And, I really, appreciate that, and I think, one of the things for me that's been really positive has been your human resources, awareness and skill, because I think that's something that, we've needed, and that, I certainly, appreciate along with your other sort of, technical skills and, yeah, bringing us into the 21st century, like getting stuff, organized, and Brennan, the same of just, having, files up to date, getting, minutes done, getting, for things completed in a timely manner.
Bills paid on time.
Bills paid, bills paid, yeah, I mean, none of us is perfect, and, we have bumps, and, but, we try to do our minutes well, and we try to do everything well, and I've been, very pleased. I think you've been very responsive, yeah. And having this is great.
It is, that's great, and I agree with everything you said, Rita. I also wanna add that I've appreciated your creativity with solving problems and taking moments to take a second and think of them creatively. I think that we've benefited from that. I think that you've kept three of us, at least I know that from my perspective, you've kept us up to date, and are willing to entertain those phone calls and chat with us too. And that's been very helpful for me as a select board member. Also the 21st century thing has, it has been very refreshing. And to Brennan too, thank you for having our documents ready as early as possible and not having a reactionary select board. I feel like we're thinking forward, reactionary we have to be, but thinking forward.
Yeah.
And it's due to the both of you. So I really appreciate that.
And
Well, I do too. They took up all the words.
okay,
They used all the words. Although I would say that I think this board would thank you for putting up with this insane town.
You really stepped into a bad, sort of like crazy time. It's been very
Yeah.
helpful, very good, very edited. Good, it's good.
Yeah.
it's a
Thank
team
you for not
effort.
leaving.
No, it's a team effort. I always say that because it's true. Like if Brennan's not able, if I didn't have him, it'd be much harder to do my job. And that's why I said, human resources is your best asset.
Oh, yeah.
So if, anything I can do to help the staff do their jobs better so that I can do my job better and then help you is really important. So I hate evaluations because I hate taking credit for things, because I know there's a lot of behind the scenes work that happens. But this is also a big deal for me, proving myself without, the long experience maybe some other candidates have. So I'm glad that things have been going well. And, I think, like I said, it's a solid foundation.
Yeah.
Which is what we needed to have to get to where we want to be.
And I think, I think you have used us appropriately, when you've needed to, that there hasn't been any hesitation on your part. Yesterday I said, well, do you want to do this, Haley? And she said, no, you can do it, Rita. I have other stuff I have to do.
Well, but
Okay, no. I said, I know it was just, it was great. She said, no, you can make the phone call.
But that you even offered is great. I mean, you have
Yeah.
also all been really
Yeah.
responsive to
Yeah.
me and very helpful. So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we're unique in that we will take on tasks.
we will.
and help out.
Yeah, yeah.
And, yeah. And we have our own talents in our own little corners and, yeah.
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 All right.
Yeah, so kudos all around. Yeah.
Really, we're a beautiful table.
Great way to end the meeting.
It's always nice having a kumbaya.
It is
Yes,
nice.
well,
It
well,
is.
thank
That's a
you.
great way to end a meeting,
is.
so do I
Yes.
hear a motion to
Yes.
adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
All right,
All
all those in
right.
favor?
Carol, I.
Stocker,
Make peace and meal aye. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, today's 100 days.
Oh.
Counted. Does anybody want anything for the road here?
Oh, I'm